Call this regular meeting to order. The first item of business is we're going to be, whoops, I'm not on. Okay, the first item of business is we're going to look at changing the agenda. So what I've polled council around is that we'd like to move the discussion of rezoning 70th Avenue up to an item early in the agenda. So we would put that in as 11E would be moved to 4A, moving 4A to bump down to 4B. So that changes would bring it right up to before registered petitions and delegations. It would be in that section. The other changes would be, we already have one on there in terms of the amendment to park access, and under late items I'd also like to add a request to BC Housing and Whispers on meeting with council to talk about the future plans for the warming center. So those are the changes to the agenda, and can I have a motion?
11A deleted.
Oh, 11A is deleted to, that was a decision to table that this morning at Committee of the Whole. Yeah, so we can add that to our changes. And so a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Councillor Zelinski, Councillor Moslin, all those in favor?
What was the second amendment?
We added some items to the very bottom, late items. Is that what you're referring to? The other thing is that 11E was moved to number 4A, and number 4A is moved to B.
Okay, so under late items, I'm sorry, what was
The late items are two. One is the amendment to the park access bylaw, which we wanted to bring forward this evening. And the other is a request to BC Housing and Whispers of Hope to meet with council and talk about future plans for the warming center. Okay, and Councillor Moslin is seconding. Councillor Zelinski puts it on the table. All those in favor of the amended agenda? Thank you. All right, and dealing with the minutes, we have the public hearing minutes from May the 6th. Can I have a motion to adopt the public hearing minutes from May the 6th? Councillor Korlick, seconded by Councillor Zelinski. All those in favor? And the minutes from the regular meeting of May 21st, motion to adopt. Councillor Korlick, seconded Councillor Stoodley. All those in favor? And the last item is the public hearing minutes from June the 5th, the public hearing minutes as an addendum, and we are adopting that, the hearing and the addendum. A motion. Councillor Moslin, seconded by Councillor Korlick. All those in favor? All right, that brings us down to our adjusted agenda, meaning that we will deal with item number 11E, which is bylaw number 2039-6, third reading, rezoning of R1 residential CD to comprehensive development, city-owned lots A, B, and C on 70th Avenue. And opening, Councillor Stoodley is exiting.
You got it, yes. My house is in close proximity, so I'm going to have to recuse myself.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stoodley. So, Councillor Krog and Councillor Thompson, you're following where we're at this point. We're moving into 11E. Councillor Krog?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm open for discussions and or a motion immediately to put it on the floor.
Your Worship, we just want to make sure that we have the motion as presented. Is that the one you want? Okay. Council, after due consideration, considers zoning bylaw amendment for third reading. So,
That would be the motion.
okay.
And you're making it? Is there an obligation to support it if you make the motion?
Yeah, that's what I understand, Your Worship. So
Yes.
I'm not moving it.
Okay. Seconding it is different. Anyone can second a motion, but we should have someone supporting this motion to place it, to make the motion for it. Councillor Thompson?
Well, I really think, I would like to be able to have the discussion on it.
You can make the motion and
For
then,
discussion before we make a motion to,
Police, please.
if that is the, consent of council, if they want to bring it forward for third reading.
okay, and Councillor Zelinski reminded us a number of times that in fact, is there some disturbance there? No. Has reminded us that really proper procedure in these matters is that a matter is put on the table for discussion, and so I would ask that this motion be put on the table.
You guys have to vote.
Councillor Thompson?
I will make that motion to put this issue on the table for discussion.
And the seconder for that, Councillor Corlett. All right, we're open for discussion, and I would open the floor to anyone who wishes to kick in the first comment. Councillor Corlett. And I gotta kill him.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, with this bylaw or zoning change, I've given it a great deal of consideration. And it's a question of what is good for all, and how is that determined. I did promise to listen to everyone, and I have listened. All good debates have two sides, pros and cons. As to not in my backyard, I get that. Yes, I talk to people, both for and against. However, no one has presented a resolution to solve this issue. We, as in all communities, have hard to house seniors and on fixed incomes, those with addictions. We're not the only community struggling for solutions. I agree with all of you. The powers that be should be on the ground doing their own public relations. That should be not left to local government officials. Leaving elected officials to try putting a positive twist on projects that have far-reaching effects. Projects that are called supportive housing, low barrier, whatever you want to call them, require the support systems in place. Right now, we have an RCMP detachment that is doing the best they can with limited staffing. We already wait a maximum of 3 weeks to see the doctors. Unless we trek to the emergency, putting more strain on our medical system. Mental health and addictions, I suspect their hands are full as well. We're struggling with flood recovery, relying on the same government. It's been over a year and we're still struggling. Where should our focus be? On our taxpayers who pay dearly for the privilege of owning a house or running a business? Or for a project that we don't have really clear solutions to anything? So I did have individual conversations with people, and it helped me a lot, so thank you. And at this particular time, and this is not my backyard. Isn't all Grand Forks our backyard? We're a small community, and everywhere we go is part of our backyard. It doesn't matter if it's downtown, Ruckles, 3rd Street, or Bryson Place, or the area surrounding that. We all live in a small community. It is our backyard. And we're responsible for what happens in our backyards. Anyway, I am not supporting the zoning change.
Further comments? Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Moslin.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too am not supporting, after the public hearing, the rezoning. But we were asked, and I think quite legitimately, what were we thinking when we proposed it? I'm going to try just to briefly describe what we were struggling with. The council needed to push back at BC Housing somehow. And we did that by putting forward a motion through AKBLG, which will find its way to UBCM. So there will be political pushback to BC Housing. I support Maple Ridge's attempt to bring BC Housing to heal legally. I support that. I'm not going to support our tax dollars going to a legal fight against BC Housing. But despite the pushback, we also have to engage BC Housing. We have to get them in the room with us at a table where we can have meaningful long-term discussions about housing in our community. Discussions that would be mutually beneficial, both the BC Housing's mandate and to our community. This particular issue may be solved for now, but we still are going to need to engage BC Housing in the future. We cannot turn our backs on them. This flawed idea was an attempt to engage BC Housing in a meaningful conversation. We were kind of surprised when they came up, when they said, yes, we'll consider it. But we did not want to drop the chance to talk to them at a table in a meaningful way. I guess the other thing that was basically, in our minds, the second thing was that nobody felt comfortable with the proposed building as Second and Central. I still feel it would overshadow the smaller downtown core. Its closed nature would work to keep people away from an important intersection. I did not believe that the acquisition of this lot would be a waste of money. In fact, quite the opposite. The city owns tons of land. This lot would be a useful lot immediately, and perhaps even in the future pay for itself if it was sold or developed to promote our downtown. The other thing in the back of my mind is that I do believe in the supportive housing initiative of the government. I'm sad to say I don't believe in the way they did it, but I believe in supportive housing. It is a response to a real need that, as far as I can see, is going to be realistic. I have looked at those, the housing examples in Kelowna. They are very well run. These are not tent cities. This is the opposite. This is highly structured, very secure, really supported. There's going to be, I'll bet, if the building is built, 60 applicants for 34 places. Those people have to go through a screening process. This is not low barrier. This is high barrier. In fact, there will be more screening for this supportive housing than there would be for a regular apartment building. So I did not see the building itself as a detriment. I guess the other thing that's in the back of my mind was what we heard this morning when the chair of the Boundary Flood Recovery reminded us that 70 houses in our community are going to have to be removed if we get what we want. 70! Some of them are being lived in. What are we going to do? Just pay those people off and wave goodbye? That's going to rip my heart. We have to make room for them. We have to have a solution. This was a beginning of an attempt to build infrastructure that might support additional housing, as well as a supportive housing project. Needless to say, the province and the city and the community need to understand that the democratic processes of a municipal government are quite lockstep We go to public hearings. We go to open council meetings. Welcome, everybody. It is impossible to ram something down the public's throat at the municipal level. So that's for some of the reasons in the back of my mind anyways, when we considered the supportive housing a 70th. At the public hearing, it became obvious that those concerns, although they were echoed in the population at large, that solution of 70th was not palatable. I still hope in the future that we can engage BC Housing and continue to engage BC Housing in discussions that will support our community and be mutually beneficial to both sides. So that is my statement, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Zelinski, do you have anything? I'm going to ask the folks on the telephone here. Good. Councillor Thompson, do you wish to make comment on this before we vote?
Yes, I certainly can do that.
And we can hear you loud and clear.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. This issue, hello?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. This issue on the supportive housing, caught the previous council totally off guard. It was announced the day before. There was a letter circulated by BC Housing to the downtown business community. We didn't really have a say in it, and as I had advised previously, we went to the UBCM, we met with BC Housing, we met with the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and we expressed our displeasure, number one, at the way it was handled, and number two, that the location was most inappropriate in the east entrance to our city. At our request, BC Housing did come to Grand Forks, and they did meet with the members of the downtown business community, and they were advised loud and clear of the reasons why it was not being supported by that community. We had just been flooded. Businesses were struggling to get themselves back open and up and running. We toured the BC Housing to both the former Hardy B. Lodge facility, and we went through that building, and we went to Broad Acres, the former Broad Acres facility. While we couldn't tour it, it was made very abundantly clear to us that they were not interested in any other location. And so we felt basically that our hands were tied, but we continued to, as a council and including this council, to try and encourage them to look at some other locations. I mean, even the BC Economic Development Association does not support having that kind of a facility at the East End town. Not because of what the facility provides, but because of how it was going to look. We then had other discussions with the minister herself, and there was absolutely no movement by BC Housing or the minister to consider any other location. Now, we all know that the 19th Street Transition Housing Project is built, and there are 52 affordable units of affordable housing on that location as well. And I have taken ownership of this recommendation before, and I will not do it again tonight. I felt that after the city has purchased the 4 lots on 70th, that if that facility is relocated from 2nd Street to 70th, then the provider of the services who would be overseeing all of those projects, the administration would be in one location. They would be on site to deal with any issue. And that was the only site that BC Housing would even look at. And they agreed that, yeah, that would work. But there were conditions attached to it, as to all read with the letter of intent to the city and BC Housing. And so we prepared the bylaw, and we gave it the first 2 readings in order that it could go to public hearing. Excuse me. The public hearing was very loud and clear against the project. There was a petition that was proposed and numerous letters that were submitted. And I believe at the public hearing there may have been one person who supported the location of 70th. So that put council in a position of having to choose. Do we upset the residents in that Brighton Place area, 19th and in that location? Or, because BC Housing owns the land on 2nd Street, do we turn down that bylaw and have that facility built on the corner at the east entrance of the city at Central and 2nd? And those are our 2 choices. Now, people have said after the fact that the petition the council received opposing the 2nd Street location, that, excuse me, I'm sick, that they didn't want it, period. But that is not what the petition said. The petition said they were opposed to the 2nd Street location. And so we are in a real quandary. But as a councillor, an elected official, I have to listen to the constituents of our city. And as such, I will be withdrawing my support of the 70th Avenue location, and I will oppose the 3rd reading of this bylaw.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Krog, do you wish to make a statement?
No, I'm good. Let's vote.
Zelinski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as we're about to vote, I would request a recorded vote. What councillor votes which way, please.
That's acceptable.
It is.
Okay, this is a recorded vote, and this is a positive motion to support the rezoning of 70th Avenue. All those in favor?
But, Your Worship, the motion on the table is to receive it for discussion.
Going to second.
It is not to vote to give the bylaw 3rd reading. So we need to vote on the issue on the table. And then if someone wants to put forward a motion to give it 3rd reading, that's fine.
Yeah.
If someone fails to give, propose a motion.
Yeah, so the motion was,
To give the bylaw 3rd reading, then it's off the table.
okay, so just to be very clear, because none of us want to get lynched, but that is, the motion was to open this for discussion. And so a vote at the moment in favor simply records it in the minutes that it has been discussed. You then need to have a motion, and there was no resolution suggested to council, so it will be up to council to either make a resolution to either in favor of the zoning change or against, then the vote will be on that. But at the moment, that is correct. All that is on the floor is a motion to discuss this, which really has already been done, so the vote on that is kind of moot.
Okay, but let's get it back on track. So we could take a vote here in terms of opening for discussion and ask one more time if there's any more comments from council.
Correct.
Yes, I have one more thing I want to say. And that is that
Councillor,
I know that there are a number of people in the gallery that if this motion to rezone fails, however it may or may not fail, the housing will be built on Second and Central.
so Councillor, we're in a position where we're opening this for discussion, and can I have that motion on the table? Councillor Zelinski?
No, I thought we already had.
That has been moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor
Okay,
Orlak.
so the understanding is that is the motion to consider and discuss? All right, all those in favor of this? Considering, discussing?
And it's a declared vote, so everybody knows who's voting how.
Yeah, this is declared because we're sitting here, but a motion or a vote against this, councillors? You're voting against it?
I'm against everything here.
Okay. And Councillor Thompson and Krog, the vote is for discussion, and we're voting positive. There are 3 votes already positive to that.
I vote positive to that.
And Councillor Krog?
Positive for discussion.
Okay, so we've passed that barrier of approving it for discussion, and now can we have a motion framed to deal with the 3rd reading of the zoning bylaw? Councillor Moslin, you're going to frame that for us?
Your worship, I'm going to frame a negative motion, then I can support it. Basically simple, move that council not proceed to 3rd reading on the rezoning of 70th.
Nice move.
Okay,
I
I'll
think we
move
can
it,
do
I'll ask for
that because we
seconders.
haven't had a motion put in front of council, so, okay. So you're making it a positive motion that we
No,
not
no.
proceed?
Yeah, well, yeah, I use the word not in there, you see, because it is, yes, that's the intent, yeah, then I can support the motion.
All right, and can we have a seconder for this?
Mr. Mayor, can I just suggest that we add at the tail end of that to specify that this is regarding zoning bylaw amendment number 2039-A6?
Sure,
Acceptable, councillor?
certainly.
All right, and the seconder for councillor's motion?
I will second that.
Councillor Thompson seconds that. Further discussion?
Your worship, I can see Councillor Zelinski. Please help us, Ron, Councillor, with your thinking.
Thank you, if I may, Mayor. Unlike my colleague, Councillor Moslin, I prefer the other way as far as making all the motions positive, but just because you put the motion on the floor does not mean that that's your vote. It's just to get it on the floor. So I personally, and again, a personal opinion, would rather have a motion in a positive form and let the votes fly where they are. Anytime you put a negative in there, it kind of confuses everything. So I would respectfully request that the mover and the seconder remove their request and that we reframe that in the positive.
All right, speaking to it, Councillor Moslin, you're being asked whether you would reconsider the way you frame the motion. And Councillor Thompson as well as the seconder.
Okay, help me with the proposed wording. It would be a positive motion, would be that council proceed to 3rd reading for zoning bylaw amendment 2039-86.
Is that correct?
I believe that's what it says.
Okay, and so that's what Councillor Zelinski is asking.
Right.
Is
Okay,
it we go
Your
back to
worship,
that?
it's a bit of a trap am I going to be then stuck supporting a motion that I cannot support? It seems to me
The
a small
nuance of this
point.
is escaping me, guys.
Yeah. I don't believe that you have to vote for your motion myself, but that's your choice.
Yeah, but you got me recorded and everything, got my name down on it. Golly.
Okay, I'm losing control.
Okay.
We need a resolution to this. We do have a motion on the floor. If the mover and seconder are not removing on it, then I suggest we vote on it as Councillor Moslin has framed.
Reworded, can say the motion on the floor, please?
Can we read it?
Yes.
Can we read that motion?
That council not proceed to third reading of bylaw amendment 2039-A6.
So this would call for a positive vote if you not support it. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Everyone understands?
Sorry, I need some clarification on that. If it's a positive motion to give third reading,
No.
It's a negative motion.
No. Our communications.
how does the negative motion read?
Councillor, it was just read by our communications. We'll have that read louder for you.
No, it's just my grandson was in here getting some homework.
Okay, so the motion is that council not proceed to third reading of bylaw amendment 2039-A6.
Okay.
Ready?
So it's negative motion that's being voted on.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Are we ready for the question, Councillor Krog? You understand?
Yes.
Man of short words. All right, all those in favor of not supporting the rezoning application on 70th Avenue, all those in favor? And
In
how are the
favor.
councillors voting on the phone?
In favor.
And Councillor Thompson?
In favor.
So that's unanimous that we turn down the Second Street third reading for zoning. What did I say? Yeah, for 70th. Councillor Cross?
That means I get Bill Dodge's.
I'm still in skates. Got me flustered.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As everyone knows, that we went through quite a rigorous process on this public hearing. We had quite the feedback, and I don't think it's denied by anybody that we heard from the community on this. One thing I heard for sure is, as I go through the bylaw and look at the different uses, there was only one use that the public did not want, and that was the supportive housing. So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to put this motion back on the floor, if I may, and as amended, with striking the use of supported housing from the bylaw and continue on with the wording of it. That way, we allow the community to use these lots for the things they wanted. That way, if we rezone it, they can have their playground for the kids. It can possibly be a senior's place, but it can be a community use. It sitting in R1 is not doing us any good, and for the community to be able to use that as they see fit with the playground, we'll have to rezone it anyway, and I don't want to relive a public hearing again. So I'd like to put it forward as amended.
And I would think that that would have to go through a process again from the beginning. I do support that.
It's amended. We've got in front of us, it's just amended motion of a
Well,
bylaw.
actually, we turned that bylaw down just now with a motion. And so, can you help us on this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's worth going back to the community to talk about what they would like to see there. I think we've heard a lot about what they don't want to see, and I think it would be important to have this parcels involved in our West End sector planning that we're looking into, so we can look at them in, with all the other parcels in the area that we're going to look at.
There's been some great ideas come forward, and I agree with Councillor Zelinski, but I understand we have a process here of dealing with this, and we're going to have to do it again.
Well, may I comment?
Certainly.
It is the intention of council to review the zoning bylaw and the official community plan in depth in the fall. And rather than the piecemealing that we were considering doing for us on 70th, I would like to hold any future rezoning or OCP application for amendments held in advance until council has had an opportunity to review both of those bylaws and to have received public feedback on both of them. I think that it's too an important issue to our community as a whole to do anything other than what I am proposing.
All right, so I hear you supporting Councillor Zelinski, but recognizing that we will have to go through a formal process to decide on the future of those 4 properties.
Absolutely.
Councillor Zelinski?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, as we know in the process, once a bylaw goes to public hearing, we listen to the public, and if there's any changes that we hear from the public, when that bylaw comes back to council, we can amend the bylaw and still go forward with what we heard from the public and still go forward with the reading. So I'll let the process speak for itself, and I'll move an amended version of bylaw 2039A6 with the exclusion of supportive housing in the uses, and we'll see if we get a seconder and a vote on it then. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Moslin, or Councillor Zelinski is making this a motion and looking for a seconder.
Just a question then to the mover. Your worship, right now the zoning is to go to a comprehensive development zone. And so your amendment would leave it as a comprehensive development zone. An alternative would be to just start the process over and have it zoned community use, which is clearly, if you take out supportive housing, basically what this comprehensive development zone 2 would be. At this moment, I kind of agree with Councillor Thompson that we do need to think of try to get a picture of the whole thing. There are other bylaw zoning issues coming at us. Definitions have not been actually clarified yet. Personally, I wasn't quite happy with the definition of supportive housing that was in this bylaw, proposed bylaw. I think I'm reluctant to rush anything now, let me tell you.
Okay.
I'm not seconding the amendment, and I would
feeling we need some time to talk about the future of those properties.
I certainly agree with Councillor Zelinski and the intent of those 4 lots.
Yes.
That they should become a community useful thing. And hopefully the new neighborhood that we're creating, that is being created, is going to have a voice in the use of those lots.
Right. But we need to bring to them a plan for the use of those lots before we go to a public hearing on what we're doing with them.
I think so.
And I don't see a seconder for that motion, Councillor Zelinski. And so I would withdraw it from the table. All right, so the zoning is not going forward, and I would like to call a short recess at this point, 5 minutes to get ourselves together. I think there are some people who are here for this topic who may wish to exit. We have a long agenda tonight, so I would encourage council to be back here within the next 5 minutes.
Oh, I'm so happy.
And
You
we'll
guys
get on
are
with the rest of the
living
meeting.
there.
Call this meeting back to order. Councillor Krog is still on the phone. Well, he was anyway. Okay, and that brings us to number 4A, the concerns regarding traffic on 75th Avenue between 1st and 7th Street. Councilors, you've read the concerns on this from residents in the area. We received a letter and petition regarding between 1st and 7th Street for information. Is there any further discussion on that tonight that we'd like to have in this regular meeting? We have the power to take action if there's some action items in this. we're going to do anything about it. Councillor Corlick.
Considering I'm a resident on that thing, the speeding and along 75th between Riverside and 7th there's no stop signs, there's nothing to slow anyone down, and it's telling, I'm surprised someone hasn't been hurt now, because there is no controlling of traffic, speed or anything, and they just fly from one end to the other. And there's kids and there's seniors and there's their motorized scooters out there now, and someone is going to get hit. I'm amazed that in the few years we've been there that someone hasn't already been. Anyway, that's just
So in the past, when items have come up related to safety and traffic, we've been told that we are going to do a substantial safety review of our traffic regulations and make that comprehensive in terms of signage and traffic. And so is this something that could be added to that workload, that we would look specifically at the complaint on that 1st and 7th Streets? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we have mentioned it to the people that are coming to do the audit. We're having our pre-audit meeting here, I believe it's next week. So that is kind of been raised to them. So.
Okay, so we can receive this for information this evening, and knowing that it will be raised in terms of the safety audit that's going to be taking place. A motion to receive for information. Councillor Corlick, second. Councillor Studley. All those in favor? Carried. Bringing us to council reports, and again, the diligence that Councillor Moslin puts in first on the list of reports. Councillor Moslin.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Your Worship. I did basically, these council reports, as most of the people in the gallery know, are due the Tuesday before the meeting. And that sometimes makes it very awkward to write a salient report. I just wanted to mention in my report that I appreciate all the letters that did come in. Upwards of 50 letters did come in. As an old English teacher, I was very impressed with the quality of those letters. They were very well written, generally. I was also very impressed with the tone of those letters. Although they were clear about their position, they were respectful. There was no profanity. There was no threats. So I was very pleased to see that in the letters. I didn't agree with all the letters, of course, but I was quite impressed by that volume of letters that came to council within a 2-week period. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Were you tempted to grade them in terms of?
Yeah, I've got my red pen out.
Teacher is always the teacher. Thank you, Councillor. And further council reports, verbal reports from anyone? Councillor Corlick?
Actually, with Councillor Moslin, things just seem to fly right along and don't always get written ones in. I did attend the Chamber AGM last week, and they have a new board, and the meeting was very well attended. And I think that the future is positive. I have faith in them, and I think they'll be moving along really well. So that's pretty much it for me. Yeah.
Further comments? Any reports? No? Councillor Krog, are you on the line?
Councillor Krog has left the meeting.
He has left the meeting, okay. And can I have a motion to accept council reports? Councillor Studley, second, and Councillor Corlick, all those in favor. And I'm not going to belabor the regional district report tonight, since we had Mr. Russell here this afternoon, and he gave a great review of some of the critical things that the regional district is working on in Area D. In particular, again, I was really impressed with what we're getting from TOTA for the money that we put in, and I would encourage anyone to catch up on some of the initiatives that they're taking. They're giving us really detailed information they're using telephone codes. And so again, you know, my comment about it being a bit Orwellian, they can tell us a tremendous amount about the people coming to this area and what they're doing, what they're looking for. So things like the Frisbee golf thing, I think will begin to show in terms of attracting different demographics of people moving through our town. What's the smile for, Councillor?
Disc golf,
What did I call it?
Frisbee.
Yeah, it's a disc, but that's a derogatory term, Frisbee. It's not professional. Anyway, that's my report. I'm not going to go into anything in detail there that we didn't cover this morning. Any questions or comments about the regional district issues? Especially the ones that you heard this morning? No. Rolly's doing an excellent job out there in terms of representing Area D and complementing what we do in the city. So I really respect the work he's putting in. And bringing us down to recommendations from staff for decisions. We have the, yes?
The recommendation is that the regional district report be received.
Yeah, okay, I didn't say anything, but we'll receive my non-comment motion to Councillor Zelinski, second by Councillor Moslin. All those in favor? Formalities. Okay, and so now we're down to the rezoning of the Hutton school parking lot, and we have this on our agenda for the previous hearings. We are now at final reading, so can I have final reading on the subdivision rezoning of the Hutton school property? Councillor Moslin, second. Councillor Corlick. Any further discussion on this? Kind of beat it up, you know what they're doing. They're going to move fairly quickly to open that up to parking and solve some safety issues around Hutton School. Question? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. The Donaldson Drive repairs, and I'm wondering on this whether we need any presentation on this. Would you like to talk to speak to it? This is moving money around again within the budget to accommodate additional resources needed for Donaldson Drive.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. We did have this project in the capital plan process early in the year, but it did not make it through to the final cut. And then we had a frost heave issue, and we're not sure about the sub-base, so we're looking at moving some money within the capital budgets that we could scale back the expo sign. And then we ordered the construction fencing, and we were able to get a good price on that, so we were able to reduce that. And so we'd like to take that money and reallocate it within capital there.
And amend the 5-year financial plan to include those amendments.
Correct.
So can I have that motion? Councillor Zelinski, Councillor Moslin, seconds. Questions?
Question.
Councillor Zelinski?
So I didn't see Donaldson on any capital plan that I looked at, but other than that, my real question is, hopefully there's enough money to at least paint the expo sign, and it will happen soon.
Is that going to impede what we're doing with the expo sign?
Nope, with the expo sign, basically we've put slag around those white letters that we had made, and all of those powder coated, and then the rest has been trimmed down, edged, and then put slag around the letters, and we will be painting the flags and the top part of that sign.
I think it looks good.
Other than painting.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Moslin?
Yes, Your Worship, this money, $25,000, is going to repair 26 meters of road. I got that right? Let's make about $1,000 a meter. And, but that leaves, according to the report, about 137 meters of road that's in poor condition. I guess what my point being, although I'm certainly in favor of this, I know that Donaldson Drive is not the only road that's in poor condition. We really do need to look at some serious capital projects capital funds going into repairing some of our roads. I know that Donaldson Drive, this is the second time in 2 years, third time in 2 times in 3 years. I mean, it's every year that road seems to fall apart and almost always in the same place. Well, I guess what I'm saying is, Your Worship, I support this motion. I'm looking forward to our capital plans for better road for repairs, perhaps in the next budget.
Exactly, I think we need to budget for that. There are deficits throughout the town. This one in particular is related to the base as well as the top structures, and that's the way I understand it. The cost is so high that this is one where the base underneath the road has let loose. And if we don't do it right, it's going to continue to be a problem there, so I support it as well. Ready for this question? Any further comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And the same issue here in terms of the budget being changed by $105,000 to look at the 19th Street 3-phase service upgrade. And I don't know enough about electricity to understand that, but I would like a comment on it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this was an upgrade needed due to the development on 19th Street. So the crew has done some of the work. BC Housing, who did the development, will be paying for the rest of the $80,000 for that project. It's just basically to take the money that we're getting from BC Housing and the money that we put within our own crew and our own capital to capitalize the whole project as a single project. So it's more of a bookkeeping exercise than a shifting of funds.
Okay, do we have that motion on the floor? No, we don't. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Zelinski, seconder. Councillor Moslin. Further discussion on that, Councillor Zelinski?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the additional upgrades other than the BC Housing, I've never seen that on a capital plan. So I don't know where that's coming from. But again, I'm confused at your background, because we can't say that it's a capital a project and then say that we're taking money out of operating. So that the $25,000 that you've allocated of operating, I would suggest that if it is a capital project, that we take it out of one of your capital funds. I think you've got an emergency repair fund or something like that.
I'm sorry, we're going back to the other motion here. This is the one for 105.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So if you read the documents, of that 105, 80,000 is only due to the BC Housing.
Right.
There's 25,000 coming out of our pocket.
Right.
And what I'm saying is, if it is a capital job, and I agree it is a capital job, but it should not come from operating. It should come out of one of your capital accounts. That's what it is. So,
will that influence your decision to support this evening or no?
No.
Okay, so good point being made.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So when I say that the part of the project came out of operations, it's our crew did some of the 3-phase line work. The materials and supplies all came from capital. So it came from either system upgrades, or we do have feeder 5 and feeder 3 pole replacement, which is what we did at that intersection there. So that portion was not due to BC Housing, but it was something that we thought was good timing to replace some of that infrastructure. So we had a contractor come in and do that work. So it all is different capital projects, I guess, plus the largest portion was from BC Housing. So it's capturing the upgrade for BC Housing in, like I said, a bookkeeping format or a capital, getting it under the capital plan.
Non-committal. Councillor Moslin.
Yes, Mayor, one of the criticisms of our 70th rezoning was that we were going to share costs with BC Housing for infrastructure development. And I'm looking at this, that looks a lot like this. So I'm wondering what was the background? How did did you go to BC Housing and ask for support for this
For
project?
the 80,000?
Yeah, like what happened? Did they volunteer it? I mean, these are negotiations that, I'm glad it happened like that, but I kind of wondered what
How
happened.
did that transpire, basically?
So basically, BC Housing came with a load profile or a plan for the electrical system that
Yeah.
they needed. And we put it to our engineer, they look at it. We did a cost estimate of the parts that we would need to provide that level of service to them. And then we sent them a notice saying, this is what it would cost. If you wish to proceed, please sign and you would be paying for this amount. In the end, you would be billed what the actual costs are. So if they're a little bit less or a little bit more, you pay what it actually takes to do the project, but this is our best estimate. So it's not really a negotiation, it's just,
We told them.
yeah, basically an internal estimate of what the project would cost to provide that electrical service that they require.
Okay, Councillor Moslin, that answers your question?
It's an interesting precedent, Your Worship. That's all I have to say at this point.
Okay, and Councillor Zelinski, further?
No.
No, okay, we're ready for the vote on this matter. All those in favor? Carried. All right, so the next item is the non-medical cannabis retail store at 7500 Donaldson Drive, and the motion we're looking for is that council direct staff to proceed with the statutory I don't have a B here. D. D is the cannabis. It's not there.
I don't believe so.
We have a final reading on that?
I'm actually looking at electronic. My D says cannabis.
Yeah. Sorry, folks, for the glitch here, but give us a second. We'll sort this agenda item out.
You're gonna try and slide something in, guys.
Try not to, no.
Go on vacation.
Sorry for being
Okay.
But you've got it on yours? Yeah, that's the one where you should be on.
Can we move on and then add it at the end under the,
So it's not showing up on any of yours?
no,
So it's the agenda we moved, so.
I'm sorry, Your Worship, I'm confused. What is the glitch? We're missing something?
we're looking for that mobile home park final reading on, it's not Donaldson, what is it?
It was the approval of the development permit application.
Development permit application, right, it's satisfied.
Is that's not later in the agenda?
Section 11, all our bylaws, if that's what you're talking about.
Oh, what about C? What,
Oh, it's 11B.
It's 11C.
It's 11B, yeah.
11B, it's 11C. It's there, just.
the ecological protection? Boundary Drive North, 11B.
So your worship, I guess, I don't know, there must be some glitch, so whatever this is dealt with in the bylaws, so just follow what you have on yours.
Okay, so
for
we'll deal
whatever
with that
reason.
under bylaws when
Yeah.
we get down to
Yeah.
it. So it's not really missing, it was just disguised. All right, so we are at the non-medical cannabis store, and the motion I'm looking for is that we proceed to public notice respecting this license application on Donaldson Drive. And just to clarify the difference here between what would be expected of a public hearing versus an information hearing, which is what we're required to do. And basically, I can see that there's little or no difference here in terms of this. We would do the same reach out to the area. There would be the same sort of notifications in the paper. This is the notice that went out already. So we have sent this notice out of hearing.
Mr. Mayor? That's the notice that will be going in the Gazette on Wednesdays for
Right.
2 advertising.
Yeah.
So that's for a public feedback session, but council had discussed earlier that they wanted a public hearing. So there's very little difference between the two. We do advertise them twice in the weekly paper, and council hears, we take minutes, so they're very similar. It's just whether or not council wanted to have a more formal process, be a public hearing, or to continue with it as a public feedback session, which is what we'll be advertising on Wednesday.
Any problems with this? Okay, Councillor Moslin.
Yeah, I have no problem with it, Mayor. The two processes are identical. Maybe there was some confusion this morning. I certainly am in favor of the recommendation. We need to get this going. We did have a lengthy discussion with the proponent earlier this morning about perhaps the pitfalls of this application, because it's all tied in with a whole other issue that is not of your making, but anyhow.
Please don't sidetrack.
I don't want to start it all up again, no. So I just like to move the motion.
Okay, moving it and seconder. Councillor Studley, any further discussion? And the question, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Did you want that recorded?
No, it's just comes down to the variance for me, so.
Right, okay. All right, so the motion carries. And the final approval for the temporary use parking for Canifest is the next item on the agenda. And the motion here is to grant a temporary use permit for day use parking, and it describes the lands, we all know which ones they are, adjacent to the camping area. This is final reading. Can I have this motion? Councillor Korlek, seconded. Councillor Moslin. Discussion? Hearing none? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Revised for UBCM Housing Needs Report Grant Application. This is the one that Rolly had mentioned earlier, that we just needed to adjust some wording in it. So we need to rescind the resolution R185-190521 and then make the motion that council supports the Regional District of Kootenay boundary applying for this to UBCM, and further council approves the Regional District receiving and managing the funds. I'm not sure what we had to change in this, but it was technical changing. Kevin?
Yeah, so council has actually already addressed this twice. We rescinded an early motion and came up with another one that was very similar to this, but apparently the wording, UBCM's requirements are very specific wording, and so the regional district sent it back to us and said, please use the same language that Rosslyn did, and so
okay.
That's what you
So can I have a motion to rescind first on the resolution R185? Councillor Korlek, seconded. Councillor Studley, all those in favor? It is rescinded, and the motion then to move ahead with the motion number 2, that council supports Regional District Kootenay boundary per se. Councillor, a motion on this? Councillor Moslin.
No, that's
second.
the two parts, Mayor, right? Resolve that and further.
Yeah, do you have any problem with this? This is, my understanding was it would be managed by the Kootenai Boundary Regional District and further. You want some more time to read it?
You heard my concerns this morning, Your Worship. First, one concern is that any fruit from this effort that is at least a year away, that is, if the application is successful, somebody gets hired, has the conversations, okay. And I guess my second concern that this does highlight is that it's not really just specific to Grand Forks.
It's a regional.
It's the regional housing needs, right? So let me talk about housing needs in Wausau. Whereas we do have some pretty critical, time-sensitive housing needs facing us that are probably unique in many ways, maybe even in the province.
So what I hear you saying is that you would support this, but it's going to take too long to come into effect, and you wonder whether it would address our specific local needs, which means that we could take initiative as a council to do something else in terms of a housing survey. This doesn't preclude us from finding some other way of doing that sort of work locally.
Exactly, Your Worship. I think you put that very succinctly. We could support this, but I think we're overdue to come to grips with some of the housing challenges that we're facing.
And the timeframes.
The time frame.
So are you making a motion to support this?
Yes.
And the seconder, I thought we already had Councillor Studley, but...
Okay.
Okay. On the floor then, question? All those in favor? Carried. I know that our planning department is looking at this closely. She has some ideas of her own on how we can make this work better for us. But this is a large project on the regional level, and we certainly need to make sure we get the most out of it for our area here. But it may not fill that whole need we have for data in terms of what's needed out there for housing. So let's see what else we can find out there that might help. All right, and moving along. Request arising from correspondence. This is a request from Horizon North, the contractor on 19th Street, low-income family housing, to locate office trailers on 70th Avenue as a temporary use of that site while construction is going on. And can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Zelinski.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to amend the motion that we have in front of us a bit.
Councillor President.
Yeah, so I want to get rid of the word approximately, just to be
Approximately
clear.
for months from June to October.
Yeah, so if it's after October, they have to come back and talk to us again.
Okay, and can we have a seconder with that adapted motion and take out the approximately? A seconder for that, Councillor Corley. Further discussion on this? No? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Grand Forks information, the RCMP quarterly stats. We have a new RCMP sergeant, a couple new officers, so I'm looking forward to meeting them. I have not had meetings at this point with the RCMP and our new Sergeant Darrell. I'm not sure what his second name is, but the stats are really interesting. Any comments on that? We're receiving them for information. It looks like that we don't have a massive crime wave going on, although there are questions of whether or not people have stopped reporting or reporting some things, but it doesn't seem like there's a big jump in crime statistics here. Again, we know we have a community that doesn't feel safe, so I'm not downplaying the incidents that are there and the statistics that we're seeing. So the motion is to accept the report. Can I have that motion? Councillor Corlick, seconded. Councillor Studley. Any further discussion on the RCMP report? We will have regular meetings with the RCMP, so I will report back to council on this as well. I think it's important we have an ongoing relationship with the RCMP. Question, all those in favor, accepting, carried. UBCM resolution at AKBLG. Again, credit to council for putting this forward. It looks like, other than a couple of spelling changes or word changes, that there's a lot of support for us moving forward on this, which identifies that we're really lacking in those supports that we need to make social housing and various other kinds of things work in our community. So, again, the resolution will be going forward, and congratulations. Councillor Thompson, I think, spearheaded this, and we had input from a variety of people, including mental health and addictions.
Just a question, Your Worship.
Yes.
I understand that as part of the AKBLG process, afterwards, we were supposed to go in and select our 5 favorite resolutions, which I did, but I never got any feedback as to what happened. Like, what were the top 5 resolutions from AKBLG? According to all our colleagues across the Kootenays. Have you heard anything?
I haven't, and I wasn't as diligent as you. I didn't do that, but okay. I don't think there's any motion needed here. This has been on the table for a while.
Okay.
All right, we're moving down to bylaws. So the first bylaw is the density issue, and I believe that we had removed this from the agenda, so that is no longer dealt with here. We'll be waiting to deal with that until we've basically moved forward with defining core commercial. And moving to B, this is the Ecological Reserve Boundary Drive North. So the single family, 2-family, this is for final reading of that, which basically is the part, I understand, that gives protection to the ecology. And do you want to comment on this? Comprehensive development plan.
So the first one that we're doing is the rezoning application. So it's approving the rezoning, and then we'll be looking at the development permit after. So this is for the rezoning, the next one is for the development permit.
Okay, so this is final reading for the rezoning.
Yeah.
But they still have to come in front of us with the development permit, which would identify the specifics of what we're
That'll be
projecting.
next on the agenda. It's just a process piece, it's getting the rezoning
Oh, it is too.
prior to that, yeah. So that's why we moved it from up top to below the bylaw.
That's why we were.
So we couldn't find it.
Yes, okay. All right, so this is the zoning, final reading on the zoning. Can I have that motion? Councillor Corlick, seconded. Councillor Moslin, discussion? All those in favor? And moving on to the second part of this. So this is to approve the development permit for mobile home genetic, the ecological reserve. And do you want to comment on this? Councillor Zelinski.
Yes, question to staff to you, Mr. Mayor. So we just did,
The zoning.
yeah, 2039, oh no, I don't remember. Yeah, it was that 2039A2. The one we're talking about is 2039A4. What does A3 say?
You're wondering what
2039A3, what does that bylaw say?
I'm lost.
Well, we had 2039A2 rezone that property for the development.
Yeah.
2039A4 is to confirm that we're setting up an ecological reserve. With our numbering convention, I'm wondering what 2039A3 is.
It's DP 1904, Development Permit 1904.
So just questioning our numbering process?
Oh.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the sequence of things. So we've got two bylaws that are very tied together, but I've got an
This is a
A3.
bylaw amendment, and then there's a development permit. It's not a zoning amendment, but the development permit is a different beast. A3 probably would have nothing to do with this project. It'd be a different,
Okay, well, I got A2 on one side, I got A4 on the other. A3 got slipped in there and it's a whole different development. Is that, maybe I'll put it this way. Can I get a copy of bylaw 2039-A3, please?
the file number is ZA1803. It's confusing. Our file number for our filing system is ZA1803. The zoning amendment is 2039A2.
Okay, so what is 2039-A3?
That. Let me just go check the file.
And as well look up number 5 too, 'cause that's missing.
Okay.
I can tell you 5. 5 was Hutton School parking lot.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, again, it doesn't affect my decision on this, but again, I'll put that request that I'd like a copy of bylaw 2039-A3 when it's found. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so
It was the omnibus.
do we have this motion on the floor? Do we have this motion on the floor, Kevin?
Not at the moment.
And the motion is made by Councillor Zelinski, seconded by Councillor Corlick. Further discussion? All those in favor? And I'm sure that we'll find that number 3 and get it to you soon.
Thank you very much.
I got it.
Got it.
Can you
Okay.
drop it in an email or email to council would be great for me.
Meet after the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the next item is the interesting one, and again, we're being asked to give first and second reading to the zoning and then direct staff to prepare a registered covenant that would look at the wetlands, drainage areas, and various other things that need to be protected with that new zoning that we're granting. But again, it's in relation to farming. And again, encouraging food production within our community, but also recognizing that we need to protect people who live adjacent to this from various factors, and we need to look at the ecology here and protecting the ecosystem surrounding it. Can we have the motion for the first one, which is council gives first and second reading, which puts it to the public process? And that motion is made by Councillor Zelinski and seconded by Councillor Studley. Discussion? All those in favor? And moving to the second part, and this is to prepare a covenant so that we would put together what we need to add to that to again protect locals and the environment from this rezoning of basically single and two-family residential area. Can I have that motion? Number 2 is Councillor Corlick makes the motion, seconded by Councillor Studley. Discussion on this? Question? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And we're down to late items. And we have a couple of late items. Let's deal with the first one, which is the Park Access Bylaws Schedule A, which is to add Massey Park to that. And Councillor Zelinski, want to make this motion?
Sure. Do we add Massey Park to Schedule A?
Yes, and seconded by Councillor Corlick. discussion on this matter? You know why it was left out? We've explored that with Daniel before he left on vacation. It's his birthday today, you know? Kevin?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, just to clarify the motion, we actually have a specific bylaw amendment. It'll be bylaw 2057-A1 to make that amendment. So I just want to make clear that that's what the motion is, not just to add the line.
Yeah, that we do have to go through the first, second,
Yeah, the public hearing, right? Yeah.
Public hearing will not be necessary, but we're giving first 3 readings to the bylaw amendment.
Okay.
And then we would bring the same amendment back in 2 weeks for the final reading.
Okay, so even though we're changing the bylaw, we don't need to go back to public hearing?
Good.
Not for a simple bylaw change.
All right.
So if we pass the other one, we could.
All right. So you're making the motion, second to Councillor Corlett, or was it Studley? I can't remember. Whatever.
I just wanted to point out, may I comment, Your Worship?
Yes.
Yeah, then it was pointed out this morning that even with their, on the schedule, the 6 designated parks being off limits for overnight camping, that there are still lots of city land within the city boundaries, even close to the downtown core, which are not named as off limits to overnight camping. So whether it's the lands at 2nd and 68th, or perhaps some other little bit of land alongside the river, there is still lots of places where overnight camping will be allowed until such time as the city has enough shelter space
To offer that as an option, yes.
to offer that as an option. So I see no problem, Your Worship, in adding George Massey to the schedule.
And Councillor Zelinski's suggesting that Lois Hagan Park would be a more appropriate spot has gathered some support from people who feel that it would be a clear indication to council that we're not dealing with the issue. Although, again, I'm not sure we want to proceed with that, but I think it rang a bell for some people that we still have not dealt with the issue of where these things, tenting, rough camping can go. So the motion on the floor at this point is simply to amend first, second, and third reading, and we don't need to go to a public hearing. Ready for the question? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. The other item that we put on as late item was a request to BC Housing and Whispers to meet with council and talk about future plans for the warming center. I think this could be a very productive meeting and one that council will benefit from, knowing what the long-term plan is. I mean, it would be nice if we didn't have to have a scramble at the last minute to identify how we're going to deal with this in future. And so I'm hoping that this puts some kind of pressure on both those organizations to come forward with some ideas to us that we can support. And I'm seeing a skeptical smile from Councillor Zelinski here. I read faces.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's that we again. I don't know what we need to be talking about as far as this. As far as I know, it's a separate organization operating a separate second service for our community, and council's a bystander. But so your term "we" has me concerned.
I'm not sure in light of what my comment was there, but when I talk about we, I'm referring to council at this point.
Yeah, and again, we've got a outside agency offering a service to the community that the council has nothing to do with. So I don't know where we come in.
No, I know we don't. We don't have any direct involvement there, but I think we plan as a community, and this is something that we're affected by at many levels. So I think it is a consultation that we as council need to have.
Okay, so what I am implying is that we have a say on whether the service comes to our community or not.
Well, that would be a question, do we?
That's my...
That would be a question on the table for this meeting. Councillor Moslin.
Yes, Your Worship, but whether or not it's our service or not, we certainly are representative of a community that is going to be impacted by that service. So I think it behooves us, and it's within our responsibility to make sure that that service is appropriate, timely, and in a supported location. I do not want to repeat this coming winter what we went through this last winter. Now's the time to have this discussion.
That I agree with, yes. It was a lot of last minute decisions. We were already into December after Christmas before anything materialized. So we're making this as a formal motion so that we can invite both parties to the table to discuss this, and so I'm asking for the motion. Councillor Zelinski, second. Councillor Studley. And again, I hope it's timely that we meet with them, that it's not left to a protracted kind of time frame. All those in favor? Carried. And we're down to questions from the public and gallery, and this is open to anything that we've dealt with or touched on in the regular meeting this evening. Anyone have any comments or things to say? Mr. Johnson.
Les Johnson, GFTV. I heard you talking about a company putting, I guess, ATCO tri-style trailers on the 70 location. Is that correct?
That was the company that's building the low-income family housing, looking for a spot to put their trailer.
Right, and this would be the location that people were worried that the Second Street thing was going to move to. Am I correct there?
Yes.
Okay. I would just advise you as body that you pretty much make clear to people that that is exactly what's going on there. It's not any groundwork for the second thing, because they don't trust you already. They think you're nefarious and there's shenanigans going on. And if they see trailers moving in there and they didn't know what it was, they'll go off half-cocked and you guys will be vilified in social media. Yeah. It'll go around and around again. So just maybe spend some time to make that clear.
Yeah. And also, we took out the approximately that Councillor Zelinski had removed from that motion, so we would expect that that was wrapped up by October.
There you go.
Yeah.
That was it.
Okay, any further comments from the gallery? No, hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Zelinski, so moved. Thank you all for your patience.